Let's talk about the herringbone stitch. I've been looking around the internet and it seems that there are a few versions of the herringbone stitch as well as a few variations of the stitch out there, and I'm here to set the record straight. Well, at least in my opinion, I think that there should be one herringbone stitch and it shouldn't be broken down into one single crochet or one half double crochet stitch at all. Now, let me explain what I mean. Here, I've made 3 swatches. The first one on the left is my version of the herringbone double crochet stitch, which I'll be explaining my version a bit later. The second middle swatch is my version of the half double crochet herringbone stitch, and the last swatch on the right is just a regular single crochet stitch for height references. Now let me show you how I work my version of the half double crochet herringbone stitch, which others might refer to as the single crochet herringbone stitch. You'll start by working any number of chains. On your last stitch, you'll chain once more to start the next row. Now typically you'll insert your hook into the next stitch, but for demonstration purposes, I'd like to show you how to work through the back bump of the chains. So for your first stitch, you'll yarn over, you'll insert your hook through the second bump at the back of the chain from your hook. So you'll have 3 loops on your hook. You'll draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. This is exactly how you'd work a half double crochet. Now, to start the herringbone pattern, you'll insert your hook through that last leg or that last loop on that first stitch, and then you'll insert your hook again through the next bump or the next chain. You'll draw up a loop, you'll yarn over and pull through all loops. Let's do that again. I'll insert my hook through the diagonal loop on the previous stitch, and then I'll insert my hook again through the next bump on the chain. I'll draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. So the reason I'm calling this my version of the half double crochet stitch is because I am working the herringbone stitch similarly to how I would normally work a half double crochet. So you'll continue this pattern all the way across. And on your last stitch, you'll chain 1 to start the next row. Now you'll be able to see the pretty diagonal stitch across this row. For the next row, you'll turn your work. For the first stitch, we'll yarn over, insert a hook through that first stitch, draw up a loop. We'll pull it high as a half double crochet should be. Yarn over and pull through all loops. For the next stitch, we'll be working through the back of the row. Now when you turn your work, you'll need to insert your hook through that last diagonal loop on the previous stitch right here. This is the one furthest away from the stitch. So you'll insert your hook through this diagonal loop as well as the back of the next stitch. Now let me show you how it's done. You'll find the loop, insert your hook, and make sure that your working yarn is above your hook. Insert your hook through the next stitch. Your working yarn should be above your hook. You'll drop a loop while scooping your hook upwards. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now let's do that one more time. Go ahead and find that diagonal loop on that previous stitch. You'll insert your hook through that loop, and then you'll insert your hook through the next stitch through the back. You'll draw up a loop while scooping your hook upwards, and then you'll yarn over and pull through all loops. So let's do this a little bit faster. Insert our hook through the loop, insert our hook through the stitch, we'll draw up a loop, pull up or hook, yarn over, and pull through all loops. So you're basically working the same stitch pattern as you did on the first row, but through the back of the row. You'll be repeating the stitch pattern all the way across. On your last stitch, just chain 1 to start the next row. This is the wrong side. And on the right side, you should be able to clearly see the zigzag pattern on both rows. Now let me show you once more. You'll work your first half double crochet into the first stitch, making sure that you pull your first loop as high as a half double crochet should be. You'll insert your hook through that diagonal loop at the front of the previous stitch, and through the next stitch, you'll drop a loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. Always remember to try to find that first diagonal loop of the previous stitch when inserting your hook. On your last stitch, you'll chain 1, you'll turn your work, and you'll repeat the half double crochet stitch into that first stitch and start working through the back loop and the back stitch for this row. And this is how your herringbone stitch should look like with this version. And like I mentioned earlier, this stitch is commonly known as a single crochet herringbone stitch, but when you compare it next to an actual single crochet stitch for height comparison, with the same number of rows and the same hook size, to me, I think this stitch method should be officially known as the original herringbone stitch or the half double crochet herringbone stitch, as it resembles closely to the basic half double crochet stitch. Now I want to show you how the common half double crochet herringbone stitch known by most people is made for comparison. You'll chain any number of chains. Once you've worked up all your chains, you'll yarn over, you'll insert your hook through that second chain from the hook, drop a loop, and immediately work a slip stitch through that first loop, and then you'll yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Let me show you again once more. For the second stitch, we'll just repeat what we did. We'll yarn over, insert a hook through the chain space, we'll drop a loop, and work a slip stitch through that first loop, yarn over, and pull through all loops. So basically, this is how the herringbone half double crochet stitch is commonly known, and there is no inserting through the previous stitch's diagonal loop. Let me show you how it looks once completed. Now this is the right side, and there is a slight diagonal slant to the stitch. For the next row, we won't be working through the back of the row like how we did before. We'll just be repeating what we did on the first row by working the slip stitch through that first loop, yarn over, and pulling through 2 loops. And this is how the half double crochet stitch is commonly done. Now let me show you my version of the double crochet herringbone stitch. You'll chain up any number of chains. Now you'll work 2 more chains to create the height of the double crochet. This will be considered as your first stitch. You'll yarn over, you'll insert your hook through that third bump from the hook, which is basically behind the third chain. You'll drop a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that would be your double crochet stitch. Now for the next stitch, you'll want to insert your hook through the diagonal loop on the previous stitch and through the next bump or the next chain. You'll draw up a loop, you'll yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. As you can see, this pattern is very similar to how we work the earlier half double crochet herringbone stitch, or commonly known as a single crochet herringbone stitch, but we're working the 2 loops twice as how we normally would a double crochet stitch. And this is how the first row of a herringbone double crochet stitch should look like. Now you'll chain 1, you'll turn your work, you'll pull your first loop as high as a double crochet should be, you'll yarn over, insert your hook, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now we'll find that diagonal loop on that first stitch, which should be this one, right here. Insert your hook through the back loop of the first stitch and through the back stitch of the second stitch. You'll scoop up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. For the second stitch, the diagonal loop is slightly more prominent, so it should be this one on the left. So go ahead and insert your hook through the diagonal loop and through the next stitch through the back. You'll scoop up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Now you'll repeat this pattern all the way across. Once you've completed the second row, the right side should have this prominent V-shape pattern. And because this is a 2-row repeat, we'll just be repeating what we did on the first row. So you'll yarn over, insert your hook through that first stitch, you'll drop a loop, and don't forget to pull your loop tall to match the height of a double crochet. You'll yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2. Next, you'll insert your hook through the diagonal loop, and through the next stitch, you'll yarn over and pull through 2, pull through 2. And once you're done, this is how the third row should look like. Now let's do the fourth row together one more time. You'll pull up your loop, yarn over, insert your hook, and work your double crochet stitch. Now you'll find the diagonal loop, insert your hook through the diagonal loop and the next stitch. Drop a loop, yarn over, and you'll pull through 2. And that is all you need to know to work my version of the double crochet herringbone stitch. And this is how your double crochet herringbone stitch should look like. It still has the pretty zigzag pattern or the V-shaped pattern and is slightly taller than the half double crochet version. Now let's compare both side by side. Both swatches have a total of 8 rows and you can clearly see the height difference. Now let's put the single crochet swatch next to them to see how much difference there is. Let me know which version you'd prefer the most, and if you're new to my channel and would like to get updates on more tutorials like this, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now!